So, namaste and welcome to Satsang today. So I just wanted to make you aware of a little change that's happening in Satsang. The way that we answer, or I answer questions that are sent in Satsang is going to change with immediate effect. So instead of me reading some questions in the sessions here, which are then answered and uploaded to YouTube. What I'm going to do is to take an hour, hopefully each month, to read through all the questions that have been sent in, and we will post that on YouTube separately with an appropriate title, like we used to do for the Ask Helen Anything, but we're going to put it all together in one. So it also makes it easier for if you have sent in a question and it's read out anonymously, rather than trying to find in which satsang it's been read out and answered, they will all be in the same video together, and it will just be a question of looking through there. And our wonderful team that put the chapters on the videos after they're uploaded will do that with this one as well as quickly as possible. So if you don't know what the chapters are, they're just those little, the scroll bar on the bottom of a video, a YouTube video. And I didn't know this for a long time. So um, the little breaks, little sections, it shows you where you can just look at those and find your particular question much easier, or a particular section you might want to look at to save some time. So and this change is happening basically. It's been coming for a while, but the amount of questions coming in to Satsang are increasing, which is wonderful. Um, but it does have to shift to a different way now. So I won't read any questions out and answer in these particular sessions. There'll only be live questions here on today's session, etc. And then the ones that are sent in via the form on our website that you can fill out with your question will be recorded in a different session, hopefully once a month, depending on my schedule with retreats and things like that. And just to remind you, if you're not aware, you can send in a question to be asked, to be read out and answered. And the satsang questions are always read out anonymously. Um, and some people send them in because they can't join the session live and ask me directly. But I might feel a little nervous of doing that. Or they'd rather it just be read without their name on it if it's a sensitive subject for them. So it's always available for you to do that. You can find it on our website, helenhamilton.org. If you go to the Contact Us page, you'll see a little form there you can fill out, and you can send in a question for satsang. If you do want to do that, please make it about one subject only and as concise as possible, so we can fit more questions in. Thank you so much. So the subject that came up today to that I wanted to talk about is one that surprisingly I don't think I've ever really addressed directly in a satsang. I mean, I've answered probably 1,000 questions about it, but never really looked at it directly as a subject like this. So hopefully we can bring some light to it, and that is relationships, because I get a lot of questions. Um, and we all are so certain that we are um, wanting the truth of awakening. Of course, we are. But actually applying that truth once we've seen who we are, or even before we've seen to our relationships, can be a little tricky, a little problematic. So we're going to look at how to apply or to live as or embody this realization in our relationships, because one of the first things that's going to happen after awakening begins to really gather some pace and momentum is it's going to work its way through your body and mind. It'll begin to change your mind, the way you think, your body as well, but most of all, your relationships. And all life, all human life is relationships. We also have a relationship with money, with time, with energy, patience, bliss, as well as human beings. Many things. Everything is about relationship in a way. How intimate am I being with that thing, that person, or that object is really dependent upon how much I'm thinking about that person, thing, or object, or directly experiencing them. And in my own awakening, my romantic relationships, my parents, siblings, and children were the most challenging places to apply this to allow this to unfold as my life, because a relationship is a mirror. It's showing us exactly what we think and feel, whether we like it or not, and it will keep showing us what we think and feel uh, over and over again. And perhaps never more so than in an intimate, romantic, or in our spouse or whatever, that kind of relationship. Although it can be just as intense with our children or with our siblings and parents. So I really wanted to dig into how to allow a smoother unfolding. Basically, human beings are um, trained, raised, developed into a conditional love. And quite often, as a separate being, an imaginary separate being, that's the only option we have. Conditional love isn't bad, it's just conditional, meaning I love you if, or I approve of you when. So even in my own parenting, even in many areas of my life, I found that my love was still conditional, and I was quite shocked when I looked at that. And awakening asked me to allow all my relationships to upgrade to unconditional love. Unconditional love is not better than conditional, because only um, the mind would say that unconditional love is better than conditional. It feels better in the body, but if we start to say unconditional love is the goal and conditional love is bad and wrong, then we're splitting ourselves into two, into duality, and we're going to feel terrible. Instead, we can see our awakening unfolding in and as our relationships as an embodiment of this love. Even beyond unconditional love, there is just this non-dual love, where there is nobody and no thing to love, no object to shower that love upon. There is just love showing up as human beings and objects and things. And so it's an important part of our awakening, whether we can actually live like this or not. And so to unpick this challenge that we have in embodying this in our relationships, it's useful to look at a little cause and effect first, just a little. And if you're not sure what I mean by cause and effect, I'll give a little brief description. So most of us are raised as a separate self, to think as a separate being. And that is to believe that something outside of us, or the body mind outside, is different to us or separate from us. And we get stuck in this cycle of trying to change our outside world to make us feel better inside. We believe that the thing outside of us is the cause of how we feel inside, effect. And that those are two different things. That there's actually a line where I stop as a separate being and someone else starts. And this can be, it pervades our whole thought process. When I get more of this thing, I'll feel better in here. And when I get rid of that thing or that person, or when I make that person change in the way I want them to, I'll feel better in here. And those systems work only temporarily because really there is no other being to get what we get the change, have the change happen that we want. And as we awaken and see who we are much more clearly, that there is no other being, then these systems in our relationships really begin to break down. And what happens is it manifests in our life as our relationships are really going a little screwy or a lot screwy. It could be that a relationship is really quite peaceful, and then as awakening deepens, all of a sudden you're just irritating each other and getting on each other's nerves, or worse. And perhaps even I get many questions sent in about marriages that are on the verge of ending, and what do I do in those situations? Those type of questions. The first thing we need to look at is where is the cause and effect in this relationship? If I'm believing that something or someone out there can make me feel a certain way in here, then I'm still in duality. And let's remember that just because I've experienced my emptiness, my oneness, my formlessness, that doesn't end, in which there's only one being, and no relationship is really possible, except the formless emptiness likes to play in the role of relationship with two beings, two bodies rather. It doesn't automatically change our thought process. And that was really surprising for me. I had this myth in my consciousness that when I see who I really am, all of a sudden it's going to magically transform everything. And boy, it wasn't like that. I had to actually do some looking and some seeing. So let's put this into an example right now. And you can do this along with me if you like. There was one person in my life who shall remain nameless, uh, from whom I was always looking for something from them. And you might recognize it more as I describe it. This person, I didn't realize until much awakening had really deepened and I started to have a lot of friction in this relationship. And I wanted this person to make me feel safe. And I desperately wanted approval from this person. And I was pinning all sorts of things unconsciously on this person. So from this relationship, if this relationship is going right, I need and I want to feel this way. And if I don't feel this way, then obviously the relationship isn't right. This is how my mind was thinking. If you think of one relationship that isn't going so well for you, and then just take a moment to look at what are you shopping for? What are you asking for unconsciously? If everything that everyone was asking for unconsciously was on a t-shirt, I would have been walking around playing, please make me feel safe, loved and approved of and validated. That would have been on my t-shirt. Looking for this from every relationship, but most especially very close, intimate ones. So what is it that you're looking for from this other being? And can they give it to you? And amazingly, all human relationships function like this at first. I'm looking for something that I want to feel inside. I want to feel approved of or validated as a separate being from this person out there who I believe is separate to me. and doesn't even feel that way about themselves. How could they possibly make me feel a certain way when they don't feel that way themselves? And then we add to that the fact that they're not even separate to us. This other person is a delusion I'm having in my own consciousness. All body, minds, and me. It's really a wonder that any human relationships work at all with the idea of the sense of separation in there. And so awakening is going to ask you to unravel this. And it means literally starting with the most dysfunctional relationship that you have at the time, which for me was pretty much all of them, and say, what am I looking for from this person? I believe that if this relationship was going the way I want it to go, I would feel this way inside. And I'm unconsciously really angry at this person um, because they're not giving me what I'm not conscious I'm even asking for. And they don't have it either. You know, if I'm looking for someone to make me feel safe as a separate self, how is anyone going to feel safe when they think that they're going to cease to exist? And how could they possibly make me feel safe, at least for more than 10 seconds or 10 minutes? And so, without judgment, we start to see the limitations of this conditional love. I love you if you make me feel validated and safe. And of course, for a lot of, especially romantic relationships, that happens in the first few, that period when you've just met and everything's rosy and you haven't started leaving your clothes all over the bedroom floor and the laundry hasn't got done and whatever else goes on. Um, and you're not annoying each other yet, right? For that moment, you seem to be receiving what you need from that other being. And so awakening is going to ask you to pick this apart. And it's as simple as making a list, me and my lists. What am I looking for from this person? And if it's a challenging question to answer, then you can turn it around and ask, if this relationship was going exactly the way I would like it to, how would I feel that I don't feel now? When I asked myself that question, there's all kinds of interesting answers came. Loved, approved of, safe, confident, attractive. There was a whole long list from many different relationships. And of course, the more time we spend with that person, the more things we're going to be shopping for from them without realizing. Again, no blame. Um, just the understanding that conditional love is in separation and we're going to have to move beyond it. It's all we've been taught so far. So the shift to unconditional love is then to look at this list. And let's just take validation as an example. Is it true I can get this from this person? Or when I have felt validated, is it only because for a short time I wasn't seeking it from this other being? And therefore it naturally arose inside self-validation. Or when I didn't need this person to make me feel safe, I felt quite safe and adequate because I wasn't thinking about this person. And all human relationships do this dance, right? Where I try to get what I need and then you try to get what you need, and we go backwards and forwards and we find some kind of compromise in the middle eventually. But awakening is going to ask us to totally undo this. Did you know that you can be in a relationship with someone from your boss to your lover to your parents, friends, and not need anything at all from them? You don't need them to be different at all than they are in this moment. Because you've done this work and started to ask, is it true I am even lacking security, safety, validation? If we start in a relationship for the assumption that the safety I need is not actually here, we're going to experience it's not here. I will feel unsafe. And then I'll have to try to go look for it from the outside world. And of course, we're all doing this with our relationships, our jobs, everything. I even needed the cat to approve of me at one point, which was just never going to happen. I had to let that one go. And then, of course, she liked me. So, what are you looking for? And is it true it's not here already? It seems to be absent, but that's because we're assuming it's absent. We always experience what we believe to be true. The moment we question, is it true that validation or safety or approval is not here right now? And we're really willing to explore that. Then we can stop meeting this person, doing this constant shuffling dance, a bargaining. If you give me approval, I'll make you feel safe. If you validate me, I'll make you feel attractive. Something like that, isn't it? Always going on. What is it like to meet someone exactly the way they are, to actually experience them without this catalogue we have here of things I need to have happen in this relationship? And mind will say, well, if you don't seek these things, you won't get them. If you don't um, ask for what you need, then I'm not going to get it. Most of us are asking unconsciously all the time. We're not saying it here, but it's on our t-shirt, right? It's in our energy. It's in our vibration. That's why it feels quite often very good to be around awakened beings because they might be the only person, non-person, the only body mind that is not asking anything of us at all vibrationally. There's no subtext going on. When we accept what is right now, what comes after will look more like what we want it to. Another thing my mind used to say here was, um, if I let go of trying to get what I want by pushing against this moment, this person as they are, if I stop trying to change this person or asking them to change, they're never going to actually change. Have you noticed that? It doesn't really work out. The more you try to force someone into something, some shape, the less it actually happens. And we resist letting go of trying to control the outside world because we think there's actually an outside world. And we think that the body standing in front of us is actually another being. But if you are that other body mind too, if the relationship is one being playing in two bodies, as two friends, as two lovers, as a boss and an employee, as a parent and a child, as a husband and wife, a wife and a wife, every which way, then how can you fail to get what you want? If you are both these bodies in the relationship, we only need to stop seeking it from outside. And for me, this transformed all of my relationships. I had to write the list and I had to take the time to ask the questions. Even sometimes just to see, wow, I'm really expecting this person to give me something, and I'm really feeling quite angry underneath somewhere that they're not doing it. And so this is the upgrade that comes automatically with awakening to unconditional love. I just love you. I don't need anything from you. If I'm in a intimate relationship with you and you decide that this is it, we've had enough, it's the end, it would naturally feel like that's best for both. It would feel okay, we've come as far as we can together, and now it's time we did this, and now we're doing this. And it wouldn't be the horrible heartbreak that comes when a normal relationship ends. You know that heartbreak where you do the Bridget Jones thing, with the ice cream and the anyway, you know that. That's because we're missing suddenly. We are suddenly without our sense of validation and security and all those things that we were trying to get and grabbing scraps of from that other person suddenly is gone. And we need it, right? We're not used to looking for it inside. Suddenly we're left without approval, validation, safety. That's what heartbreak is. Everything you were giving me, you've suddenly stopped giving me. It's gone. And I don't know where to get it from. And it's kind of a detox going on, right? But most of us just take those needs and plant it onto the next person, unknowingly, of course, again, without judgment. This is where the same person keeps showing up in our lives in different forms. The same person trying to show us what we think we need from the world still and from a particular relationship. And so life did this with all of my relationships, upgraded to unconditional love. And then later to non-dual love, just love, where there's no person, no object to love, either conditionally or unconditionally. There's just myself appearing as this apparent other being. And there is nothing sweeter in human life than actually being with someone that you do not need anything from. And when you're not asking anything or demanding anything vibrationally from the other person in a relationship, because it's all just coming from the inside out, pouring out more than you could ever imagine. Enough approval, validation, safety from knowing who you really are. You give this person the greatest gift that any human being could give. And it is simply allowing them to be as they are. You are being as you are in that moment, and so are they. And being how you are in this moment might include some desire. It would be nice if this person put their laundry in the basket, right? It would be nice if they would put the toilet seat down or up, whichever. But that's just arising in this moment inside you, and it's completely loud. But there's no right, I have to make this person, I have to passively aggressively snap at them until they realize I actually need something from them because I don't actually verbalize it. This may or may not be from my own experience. And there's just the desire arising in this moment for the next moment to be different. And then, of course, it can be. Once you've tasted what it feels like to just let yourself be as you are, because, of course, the greatest relationship we have is with our own self, our own mind and body. And to those nearest and dearest, you'll see some amazing things happen in your life. Cats and dogs, they have this, of course. They're not looking for approval from anyone. They know they're good enough. And I think fishes too. I've seen quite a few fish looking kind of a little bit smug. But human beings, it's a pandemic across human society, isn't it? First, we believe we're a separate self. And then we believe, because we're separate to other beings, that there's things where we feel deficient and we feel not good enough because we believe we separated from our source, which could never be so. And then we look at all these other body minds and imagine they're actually different beings and actually begin to bargain with them. So to undo it, you make your list of what you need from that being, and then you ask, is it true it's not here already? Like a contemplation question. And it will literally work with any problem in any relationship you've ever had, ever know, or could have. My mind's, oh God, this is so much work, I really don't want to. But this is how the truth is going to move through your relationships anyway. And all you have to do is just to engage a little bit. Some relationships, all you have to do is write your list and it'll magically change. Some relationships, just hearing this satsang, it will change. Some of relationships you might have to contemplate and ask a little bit more. The longer you imagine that you've lived a relationship with that being, we've been together 50 years. Not really, not really. But in those imagined 50 years, there's a lot of unmet expectations and a lot of very set ways of thinking about each other. And what would it be like to just be with that being? Because that is all the real self can do. It can just be only that. And the joy you will see on people's faces when they're around you because your t-shirt is blank. There's just a big smile on there or something. It's a beautiful way to live and the best gift you can give anyone. When you start to ask inside, where's the security and approval going to come from inside, from knowing who you really are? There is more than enough for yourself and every relationship in your life. In fact, there's more than enough for all humankind. And there's more every day, more validation. And then you're silently vibrating. Everything's absolutely okay. And you're vibrating silently. Everything about you is perfect. And you're silently vibrating, I don't need anything from you. You're good just as you are. And that cannot be, I've tried probably at least 100 times to put it into words what that feels like in a relationship. But it becomes, whether it's romantic or siblings or whatever, a deeper exploration of how love wants to appear as this relationship every day. Every day, more intimacy, physically, emotionally, sexually, whatever, mentally. Every day, more joy. Every day, a deeper expansion of the one being playing as two. And that is so delicious. Cannot be understated. So, all of our problems with all of our relationships, if they're getting worse as awakening deepens, perhaps just being willing to look. Because even if the other person in the relationship is not on the path like you are, if there's only one being and seem to need approval from this being, guess what? They seem to need approval from you too. If you want them to make you feel safe, they're also wanting you to make them feel safe. And as you inquire into this and ask, is it true? I need to feel safe, or I need to get this security from outside. You're also helping them, whether they realize it or not. Oh, and the rest of humankind, because there's only one being. So don't worry too much about the cause and effect thing if it doesn't make so much sense. We could simply say that there's not really much point trying to get things from other beings if they don't actually really exist separate to us. We're really getting it from our own self anyway. Even if this person could make me feel a certain way for any length of time, that person is myself. So I might as well go more directly and allow it to come from the vast, infinite wellspring of everything we need, which is inside all of us. Okay. I'd like to open it up for questions. Anything to do with awakening. I'll take up to 5 questions here today. We'll start with Hottie. I'm sorry, I don't know your real name, or maybe that is your real name. Sorry. I think Zoom hides the mute button somewhere different every week. Let me see if I can. Um, does that help? There we go.
Yeah, yeah. He said that the host needs to give me a voice, so I couldn't
It
do it
does that
myself.
sometimes, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Oh, very nice that I have this opportunity. I
Good.
appreciate it very much from my heart. Um, it is very funny because I was making a walk this morning and thinking about what is happening with me and my 16-year-old son.
Oh yeah, I've been there with my four children. No,
I
right
was
where you are.
being,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I came to this satsang and this was the topic. So I really thought, wow, oh, this is so good. So
There's only one being, right? Yeah.
yeah, there's only one being, yeah. Um, and well, two of my children are not living at home anymore. There's only one son living here and my partner, the father. So we are with the three of us. And I feel that I want to trust more and more on just being available for my son and trusting that he has his own inner guiding guidance, or that is the oneness that is also in him and in me. My partner is still a little bit more from becoming angry if he does not listen, or he's taking drugs, soft drugs, or uh, yeah, not meeting his agreements. Um, and I feel I long to rest more and more and go backwards in inwardly
Mhm.
and just trust. And but there's also a little part in me that thinks, but I am a mother. I have to warn him about the risk of taking drugs, or
Yeah.
uh, and then you have my partner who is doing some kind of um, what is the word? Because he wants to do it differently. He looks at me and
Mhm.
says, "You have to do it like that also." So sometimes I'm a bit, and I was just curious because you have children also. I'm curious. Maybe you can shine a light for that on me, or
But first thing is something you mentioned that came up for me as well, which was this belief that if I relax into my awakening more and deepen into this seeing, that I won't be as effective as a mother. I won't be able to warn them of the dangers and those things like you were saying. And it became a huge fear for me that if I really uh, go for what I want, which is to realize who I am, I'm going to turn into a bad mother. Or I was convinced I already was anyway, as a separate self, the unworthiness. I'm sure we've all felt it. But actually, when I looked at it, if I am already this infinite self, why should anything change or get worse in my parenting as I realize who I am? And I really started to see that play out. Actually, I was more able to be there for them, more able to see clearly in any moment what needed to be said, and that whatever was said, words of advice or caution or guidance, was actually able to come directly from the silence that I am, and not filtered through this unworthiness feeling as a separate being. And it was different. It was heard. It was listened to. It was received because it was coming from the silence as the silence. And it actually changed everything. So this was a really important realization that the best way I can be the best mother is to realize who I am. The best parenting is going to come from there. Not that there's anything wrong with our parenting now, but the most loving place of all is who we really are. And sometimes that loving place is able to say something that's very direct, or some kind of discipline that needs to be enforced or something that I would not have been able to say as a separate self, imaginary separate self, was able to be said. Things that I just would not have been able to say. So everything began to change from there. And I wanted to address that because it's a huge idea that I see a lot of parents having. Will I even care about this if I wake up to who I am? And yet everything is pulling you inside. There's this intense desire to just rest as this self, which we're fighting because we think we can't do it. So, and the other thing is, um, if you take a piece of paper or you can do it on your computer or whatever, but make a list of if your relationship with your son and a relationship with your relationship with your partner, if they were going exactly how you want them to go, how would you feel that you don't feel now? So your son is doing whatever he does, and your partner's saying you should do it this way, and you're feeling certain negative emotions. If the whole thing was going perfectly, how would you feel? Everyone's getting along, everyone's feeling really good. How would you feel? And for me, when I ask myself that question, you could probably guess what the answers would be anyway, right?
Yeah, it's already there.
Yeah. Well, I would
Yeah.
feel free. I would feel peaceful. I would
Mm.
feel relaxed and safe. And, I'd feel listened to. I'd feel validated, whatever answers would come for each of us. So that will show you
Yeah.
what you're trying to get unconsciously and what they're trying to get from you in this constant exchange that's going on vibrationally. And then you can just ask, do I even need this thing to change to feel that way inside? And can this thing change? Well, I'm sure it's not here. If inside and outside are one, let me see if peace and freedom and validation aren't already here. And then you show up in the relationships, but from an empty space of just pure consciousness, pure self. And sometimes you'll find yourself saying some very surprising things, but they'll be exactly the right things. And whatever they are, we don't know beforehand, but you'll find out.
Yeah. Thank you. That's very helpful because I can feel it. I can feel it that I can just rest and trust that if I do that, the right thing to say, or maybe don't say anything, that will just arise.
And it'll be
And I do
different
not.
every time. Sometimes it's just not saying anything. Sometimes it's saying exactly what you've needed to say but couldn't say before. But it comes from a loving place, even if it's very direct. Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Kiara,
Namaste.
hi, namaste.
Ha- Hi. Um, I love you.
I
Um,
do.
my I have been I brought this up in a Sangha meeting, and I still feel there is a somebody clinging onto something here. And so I'm here for that to just be ripped away. And that is for the last 2 months, I can confirm that I have just been witnessing um, the body and mind do its thing, as this body has gotten sicker and sicker with cancer. uh, there is also an internal sort of revolution happening where I just stood back and watched because things are apparently falling apart, and uh, I have had a carer, a friend who moved in and took care of this body and the children, um, and it has been amazing to watch no part of me controlling anything, and I'm just watching as, oh, this body's getting sicker. Oh, a friend is moving in and is now taking care of me and the children. And within these 2 months, I have been in total surrender, but the person has snuck up because this the personality or identity ego um has found a doorway in, or a little back pocket, in that this relationship has absolutely fallen apart.
Mhm.
Whilst I have been fully in surrender, internally there has just been complete self focus. The 10 myths about awakening, which is like self-absorbed. I have been fully self-absorbed. And what
Good.
I found out is that this other person and these other two people who've been taking care of me have felt that I have harmed them, when I know that I have been so fully self-absorbed, it is not possible for me to have harmed them, and that this is something that they have has somehow contorted. And
Hmm.
so the person has come inside me. If I am the self, how can I cause harm? Because I know I did not control those things. They just happened. But now maybe I can't let go because I'm causing trouble. And these people are really upset with me.
Let's look into that because I don't think that's the person. I think that's the infinite self asking, if I am all of these bodies involved in this, can I cause harm to anyone? If there's only one being, can I cause harm? And especially, can I cause harm to another being if there isn't one? And of course, that's not an excuse that we use to kind of behave however we want to, but a seeing that needs to happen deeply inside. If these bodies are just gathering in a room and talking to each other, and you, the infinite self, are watching all of that, is there any causing of anything happening?
No, but there is a feedback loop at apparent something I have said or done, but I know there has not been an intention to harm.
Yeah, of course not. And that seemingly external feedback coming, what's the emotion that happens in you when that suggestion of harm is said? When somebody says to you, yeah, but you did this or you said this, what's the emotion that arises inside you? Because what is going on in the outside world, other beings, apparent other beings, is really showing us. So how do you feel about what's going on? What's the emotion?
Shame and grief.
Yeah. So these apparent other beings are simply showing you some little pocket of shame inside that. But what does shame itself say to you? What's the belief? Not about these other beings or any apparent action, but if shame just had a t-shirt on, what would it say? What's the idea underneath shame?
Oh, who are you to awaken?
Hmm.
That was unexpected.
So this then is something we can work with. We can use it in our inquiry, in our contemplation. And it seems very real from the separate sense of self. Who are you to awaken? And what makes you think you deserve joy and love and happiness and all of that? But from the infinite self, who are you to awaken? It's a different thing then, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, of course you're going to awaken as the infinite self. How could you not? And knowing that that awakening is going to bless all the bodies involved in this situation. And things will just kind of pop up like this, right? To be seen after we have kind of fully realized that we are, or even while we're still realizing, we are just watching all of this manifestation move and unfold. We're not managing any of it, or we're managing all of it, the whole universe as the infinite self. As we're resting in that more, then life is going to say, okay, you just need to question this idea still. And we don't know those ideas are inside, right? Until somebody apparently externally pokes at something tender inside.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful to talk to you. Thank you. We'll go to Henrik. Wonderful. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Uh, yeah, I have a question about my life basically because I've meditated for a while and I had a really beautiful life that worked really well. Kids, wife, career, good career working. I'm a painter. And 3 years ago, things got a bit, I mean, maybe even before that, but 3 years ago, really, things started to it's almost like sabotage. It's all areas of my life, the financial bits and relationships and my work and my health. So I was really challenged in all these areas,
Mhm.
and I've done a lot of meditation previously and had that as a kind of thing um, periodically, sometimes every day. I'm, I have difficulty to see what life is trying to tell me here because, and I notice I have really big problem trusting life because so many things have been really difficult lately. So I'm wondering what I'm missing here, and if because it feels like sabotage rather than look at this, you're not really understanding this bit of life. It's more like sheer sabotage, you know. So I have a problem seeing the positive bits with. Do you see what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
I, I'm really quite confused because I was thinking I was given these talents and all these really good conditions and everything worked really beautifully, and then it's being broken down. So I don't
Exact,
understand. Yeah.
exact same thing happened to myself. Well, I'm not an artist, but in terms of my work and everything,
Mm,
the deeper awakening went, the worse my life got in pretty much every area. And it
right.
took me a long time to figure out what was happening. What happens is when we begin to wake up to who we are, we also have to see who we are not. Our old sense of self, who we thought we were, this someone, has to kind of be dismantled or taken apart, where we're really holding on. And the only way that we actually realize there's anything in there to look at is when it shows up in our apparently external relationships or life or our career. So what happens is it looks like everything's going wrong in my life,
Mm,
but actually, um, it's showing us some belief that we're still holding on to. Um, meditation, we do meditation in this teaching too. But in my own experience, meditation was not enough on its own. Meditation brought stuff to the surface for me to see, but I had no way to work with that until I realized about contemplation and asking a question. So I ended up, it was like rowing a boat with one oar and just going around in circles.
mhm.
2 hours meditation and contemplation, I could actually begin to move forward. So deeper and deeper every day, seeing who I am. And then life is showing me where I'm still believing in something I'm not. So I'm not good enough, or I'm not safe, or I can't get what I want. Deeply, these thoughts deeply being held onto, which are then experienced as emotions, negative emotions. And also, so there's the belief and the emotion and the experience in our life, usually one of our relationships going really wrong. So if you look at these areas of your life one by one and just get in touch with what's the emotion that seems to be felt. And you mentioned trust. And just as an example, for me, it was my mind was saying, I'll trust life when it behaves in the way it should, you know?
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and my mind really believed that that was true. I'll trust life when abundance finally comes in for me or something. But it's actually because I feel unsafe and untrusting that life has to reflect that back to me in every way, literally. Because the other beings in our life, the other people in our life, are also us. We're expecting the outside world to change first, and then we'll feel differently inside. And it never works that way around. These beliefs become more and more um, out of alignment with who we're seeing ourselves to be here in Satsang in our awakening journey. So mostly we're starting to realize there's only one being and it's infinite and formless, and that means I'm safe and I've always been safe. I'm not going to die. But there's still a thought process inside that thinks in the old way, thinks about other beings as if they actually are separate to us. So life will be showing you um, which emotions need to be looked at. And it's a technique we call contemplation. We look at the emotion.
Mm.
We ask that emotion what belief is underneath it. We just did that in the previous questionnaire with shame, and an idea came up that was underneath that shame. And then we turned that into a question. So, is it really true I'm not safe? There was a question I worked with for quite some time. Because the idea that we can't trust life is really coming from a lack of sense of safety, right? Can you see that deep down? Somewhere deep down in our gut, not consciously up here, but somewhere deep down inside the gut.
Yeah. Yeah. The weird thing is that it's stronger now. The not trusting is stronger now after all the the stuff gone wrong than previously. So
Because it's just trying to show you this is what everything that's going wrong is a reflection of this idea. And our mind can't get that because it says, I feel this way about out there. Your mind can't
mm,
understand that there's no in here or out there, they're all the same one.
yeah, that's kind of difficult to yeah.
It's everything that's going on in our life. In a simpler way, we could say, is a mirror image, a mirror showing us what unexamined beliefs we have inside. Once we can begin to question those, then looking at the emotion first. And there's lots of videos on the YouTube channel about contemplation, how to use it, how to work with it. Um, what you're describing is very common for many, many beings, but it's very difficult until we realize what's happening. The emotions just seem to intensify.
Yeah, yeah, it's really yeah. I'd rather have a normal life that worked than this kind of thing. Much rather.
But the good news
It's
is it can turn around really quickly. And these beliefs are coming
and
up now because your awakening is deepening and it's time for them to be left behind. I'm not safe. I'm not good enough.
yeah.
I might not be thinking those things consciously, but unconsciously, my whole
Mm,
life was a reflection of these beliefs. People treating me badly, not having enough of what I needed and wanted, all contributed to the sense of unworthiness and feeling unsafe. And with questioning consistently, my whole life has turned around. It's now reflecting the knowing that I am safe and always was, and there could never be anything unworthy about me. So there's nothing going wrong here, although it's a difficult stage to understand. It's literally how we embody this seeing.
mm,
And questioning through contemplation begins to change the way we think. about there's no inside or outside. We're always thinking in terms of duality, cause and effect. How I feel in here is because of what's going on out there, says the mind. And it can't see that that can't be true. But you can, because you're the infinite self. You can see there can't really be an inside or an outside if there's only one being experiencing itself through all of these bodies. So just to maybe listen to this a few times, of course, it's being recorded, and just have a look at the YouTube channel. And there's a whole load of stuff in there on contemplation, how to work with emotions and find a belief underneath it and then question it.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll do that, Helen. That's great to talk to you.
Thank
I've
you.
listened to a lot of your videos recently. They're very, very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Thank you the same. Thank you.
We'll go to Pauline.
Hello, Helen.
Hi.
This is a question that it has been lurking for a very long time. And I don't ask it usually because the only time it ever really comes up is, just after I've woken in the morning and I'm in that in-between state, and then yeah. And during the day, my life is really it's wonderful. Quite honestly, it's turned out in ways that I never even dreamed, and it's just fantastic. And I started out when I was young with huge fear, lack of trust in life was just vast. So much so that I didn't want to have children. I didn't want to bring children into this world, but I couldn't resist having them. That was what I was doing. So I had to, and bless their hearts. Oh, and, unconditional love is something that they ushered me into, because the situations that arose, they were just not
There is no way
ones that I could pretend that I could love them unless I found that in me, which was unconditional. However, I've managed to split myself. So I've got I've got a daughter in another continent, and on the surface we have, and I don't know that it's even true on the surface. She was my firstborn, and all my fear and guilt at having had her, I just unloaded onto her without any intention of so doing. But, I remember taking her once to a shiatsu lady who said, "Your daughter is chock-a-block with fear." Oh my God, what have I done? So
Can you
I've
do
come to
that?
terms.
Can you unload something onto another being?
No,
Or is
no.
it the same stuff appearing in two bodies as mother and daughter? It's really
Well,
important, right? Because if we think
yeah,
if I've caused this as a parent, that's a terrible burden to bear.
I see that, and I see also that I had the idea that my mother had done that to me, totally unwittingly. So that went on for quite a while. But now my daughter's in another continent, and we seem to have birthday greetings, a little text, and Christmas, and that's it. And she actually wrote me a very sweet email during COVID, sort of saying, "You were a good mother," and but then I've got the elder brother who lives at home. He's not elder, he's the younger one, but I lived close to him, and he has been a wonderful, wonderful lesson. And he's very calm, and he just stopped me whenever I started trying to sort of interfere in the night, without, yeah, it's okay. And so I learned from both of them so much, and in most of the time, except for those early mornings. And now the reason I brought it up today was because it had just come up when I was walking back here to attend the satsang, and then the subject and the questions from Hoti, it just seemed to, okay. And I felt that tension that said, no, you're not feeling okay. So I thought, okay, let's
Mm.
see what Helen can shed light, because it seems to be absolutely fine, and my life is just absolutely fine. There is something going on. So my daughter and son are not, they just haven't spoken to each other since a horrendous fallout that happened after the death of my husband. And they have no contact with each other. And that hurts me deeply, because I mean, it did. And I made peace with that, but it seemed that my fear, I had kind of split it in two. So I was doing it with both of them. And I wondered if it isn't that feeling of, the question, am I safe? Maybe I should contemplate, is it true that my children are not safe? And as soon as I ask the question, it's obvious to me that they are safe. So what is this niggle? And
Niggle is an unexpressed desire. What's the desire here? What would you want moving forward? If you could have the three bodies all acting and being a certain way, what would it look like? Meaning, what do you want from this?
I don't envision a situation, but I know that seeing it how it would be. But yes,
don't
don't
intellectualize it. What does your heart want here?
Love between the three of us, openness between the three of us, acceptance between the three of us.
So, can you see that there is not a separate self wanting that? That must be the desire that's in all three bodies. If there's no separate self, this body, your son and your daughter. In your son and your daughter, there might be less consciousness of the desire. It might be more suppressed, but it must be in there. If you want it, they must want it.
Yes.
What you can do for them and you is to just get in touch with that desire, not doing anything to make it happen. In fact, best not to, just because you'd be a separate self doing, but what is it I really want here? And what would that look like? And can you just form a little image of that, we do, conscious imagining, just what would that look like? And it doesn't even need to be anything we've all finally reconciled and we're living in the same town again. I mean, that might be too unbelievable right now, but maybe three of you on a Zoom together having a laugh, something like that, something as simple as that. So one of you tells a joke, both of you are laughing. And this is just something I'm pulling out of my imagination now, but
no, that is perfect.
You could put your own picture in there, right? But
yeah,
if we won't acknowledge this desire, we're always going to feel a little restless, because desire is such a powerful energy moving inside the system. And it will go to and seek out the most conscious body that can help feel it, because it wants transcendence to the desire. It wants to manifest.
Right. That, in fact, when you were just suggesting to Hottie what to do, I was thinking, yes, that's what I need to do. So thank you. Yeah, and I like the idea of laughing together. That's exactly what I would love to see.
Even just a jokey text or something, right? A group message or whatever. Start a
between the three of us. I have it a little bit with my daughter now. I have it a lot with my son, but to have
and
that,
you now want, of course, the desire is expanding them, because this is not really three beings. It's love expressing itself as three body minds, isn't it? As three relationships. So it's going to want to expand, and it will go as fast as the most conscious body out of the three of you, which is probably you, assuming they're not on the path right now. That's okay.
Of course, one, but different paths.
Yeah, that's okay. But just, how much are we willing to look at what we want? And we settle for what we don't want because we think it's never going to happen, but mostly because of the old ideas we have as a separate self. But what remains for you? It's just to look at what you really want and to have fun imagining it, right? If it feels good, go with it. And
Okay.
just keep it as small as you need. It's
Yeah.
not like we're all landing in the airport together and we're all hugging, because maybe that doesn't feel believable right now. Maybe
Right.
later, but something, who knows?
So just the last bit of that is that there is and it looks as though, as you say, it's working, it's expressing itself out because there is a financial situation which has been pending,
Hmm.
keeps getting pushed out further down the line, where it would seem that I have to take an action one way or another, and I do not want to do that because it's not. It seemed obvious to me at one point what I had to do, and now none of it is obvious in that way. I just don't. I don't like. I don't feel good with that, whereas I did before, and so I guess it's still the same thing. Just imagine the feelings of, then it will continue, hopefully, to
Yeah.
just dissipate, which it had
Allowing the
had.
desire that's being suppressed, you'll feel all kinds of clarity then because it takes so much energy and life force to hold this desire down, right? Especially, of course, with our children, of course.
Yeah.
And so when you finally stop holding this thing down, you've got all this life force to have these insights and clarity that wasn't available before.
Oh, that's God, that's just what I needed to hear. And I hadn't thought of it that way. So thank you so much. I'm
It's always easier
really,
to see
really.
once you're out of it and have been through it a few times. So, yeah,
No, that's great. Thank you. Thank you.
thank you. Wonderful. We'll go to James to finish.
Hello again.
Hi.
Wonderful to be with you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Well, a month ago, I would have said that I have no significant problems with relationships.
A month
But
ago.
um, but in recent since then, kind of, and then, I'm not going to go into a lot of details unless you want to pull them out of me. Someone has kind of
Only if
entered
we
my life.
really need to. If we could keep
Right.
it more general, it's always easier.
Yes, right. Someone has entered into my life. We now have a relationship, and she is a problem with her life is a shambles, due to addiction and bad decision making. And so this has kind of become a problem for me. Of course, I can say a parent, and I try to continually see it as um, not really separate. It's all one, etc. But something came together in what you said at the beginning, in saying that, about the toilet seat, it's fine to say what you want. And I've already been um, thinking that this is what I need to do in this relationship. I need to express what I want. And I can see that what I want is peace and contentment for both of us. Um, and I've been strategizing about how to express what I want in tangible terms. And so through your introductory comments, it came up that, well, I think I should be able to just say what I want is peace and happiness and contentment, relaxation for myself and for you. And that's the goal of this relationship. Now, admittedly, sitting here with this for the last so many minutes, there's a recognition that James is looking at this now as a strategy
Mhm.
that's going to solve the problem. Um, And so there's also the recognition that yeah, maybe it's a good strategy, but there has to also I have to also be okay with it not um leading to that result directly.
If you can hold this in a fine balance between this is what I would like to have happen here, and also accepting how it is right now. And usually we have the idea that those two things are opposites. So I can accept how this person is showing up in my life right now, and simultaneously have a desire for how I would like it to move forward. So I'm not in conflict with them energetically, how they are now. I'm also not in conflict with myself because I'm honoring the desire that's arising inside myself for it to be different, for them to be different. And again, recognizing that that desire must also be in the other person, in this woman, but perhaps maybe not even anywhere near able to, they can't actually right now get in touch with that because there might be so much self-hatred or unworthiness or something going on, whatever it is that's going on inside. So understanding why it would be like this as it is right this moment for this person, how they got to that point. The idea that we're a separate self distorts all reality, all of our reality, so badly that we seem to think we're making decisions and then we blame ourselves for those decisions, and on it goes. And it spirals downwards. But the most conscious body mind, not the better one, just the most conscious one, can actually hold the desire for both, realizing it must be in both bodies, yourself and your partner. And maybe you don't even need to verbalize any of this right away, just to hold that desire. Can you imagine what that would look like as things start to change? Feeling it out in your imagination, feeling good. Maybe that starts with just an imagining of an honest conversation or something that feels good, a real meeting. Getting in touch with what you want here in this, inside, really honoring that desire. And at the same time, um, doing your best to be with what is, as it is right now. The only way how it is now can change is if we don't push against this moment. This is how it is right now. This is how she is showing up right now. And it can't be different right now. But as I consciously work with the desire moving forward, things can shift. Maybe you don't ever say anything externally, verbally, or maybe you do, but either way, it will come from the silence itself.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful that you can have this opportunity to help both of you, right, in a way, or
Yeah.
both of you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could push it away and say, I don't need this. I don't want it. Go away. I don't need you in my life. But it doesn't feel like that's what's called for.
And it's probably a part of us all that would want to do that, right? This is just too much. I can't
Mm.
take it, can't deal with it.
Yeah.
But whatever's going to unfold will, and we're just working with that process consciously, of course. And in that, you'll know what's right. You'll know what's right for you, or not, what's not right. It won't be a figuring it out, right? It'll be just a knowing.
Mm.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to talk to you. Okay, so we will leave it there for today. And thank you all for your intelligent contributions here and wonderful heartfelt sharings and deep insights. It takes great courage to put your hand up sometimes here on Zoom. That's the hardest thing we might ever do. So I really appreciate that. Sitting in this chair too takes a little courage sometimes. So I'm right there with you. Thank you so much. Namaste.